This is the Karen Reed trial, day 1, daily recap. We are going to get into some of the witness testimony. If you missed part 1, go back and watch that. It's where I shared the recap of the opening statements done by the prosecution and the defense. Before I get into the recap, I do just want to highlight that this is a retrial. I already know all of these people because I watched minute by minute of the first trial. So I am not going to explain some of these questions that the prosecution asked to kind of get to know their witnesses and introduce them to the jury. I don't care what kind of certification a firefighter has for these purposes. I don't care that Kerry Roberts is an executive assistant. Things like that I'm not going to put in any of my recaps until we get to some of the experts that will help us validate their credentials. The prosecution's opening statements included the perspective of EMT firefighter Timothy Nuttall, because he is the one who heard Karen Reed say, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him." And he's going to be the prosecution's first witness that they call today on day 1. I think he was like 28 years old, I believe he said, but he is a EMT firefighter for the city of Canton. He's worked all over kind of the Boston area, and he grew up in a household of firefighters. He arrives on scene and sees 3 women that are speaking with Canton PD. And after he was basically the first person on the scene that goes over to John O'Keefe's body. And after assessing no sign of life on John O'Keefe, he goes over to the 3 individuals to kind of understand what's happening with the situation. He says his only focus that evening and basically every day of his job is to save lives. He's not there to do any type of investigation or get any information unless it's something that can help save someone's life. There is some police dash cam video evidence that's entered in to evidence based with his testimony, and it's him basically arriving on scene, moving back and forth, kind of coming in with the stretcher. It's a very chaotic scene. If you haven't seen the dash cam footage, you should go look that up. Snow is coming down. There's people running back and forth. The blue lights are going, and it's really dark outside. So you can't really tell who is who, but these individuals that are called to testify, they're able to help identify themselves. At one point, he says that he observed a woman on scene who had blood on her face, and he believed that was because she was trying to perform life-saving measures on him. He identifies that woman as Karen Reed in the courtroom and says that she's the woman that said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," and he specifically says it 3 times. He goes over some of the injuries that he observed immediately. He said that John O'Keefe had like some matted blood on the back of his head. He had a good sized bump over his right eye, and then several notably deep scratches on his right arm. The questioning with Nuttall is pretty extensive, but it just goes into so much detail that we don't really need. Next up is Alan Jackson to do the cross-exam. He starts by asking what he did for preparation for the trial and who he met with. And this is where it gets a little annoying because the whole point of the defense is to poke holes in the prosecution's theory and to create reasonable doubt. So that's what he does for basically an hour and a half. And Nuttall says originally he met with Hank Brennan and a few other people about 3 weeks ago to prep for the trial, one more time, so 2 weeks ago, and then last night they met again. He wants to know what they talked about. He wanted to make sure that they were all on the same page, that he said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him," meaning 3 times. But in trial 1, he said, "I hit him 2 times. So now this trial, a year later, it's that she said, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him 3 times. It doesn't matter if she said it once or 50, I think. If somebody heard that, it would be in the report from the night of, and none of this is in the reports from the evening of, which is a little concerning. Somebody messaged me on Instagram and said she gave a little bit of perspective because she is also an EMT, I believe she said. And she said anything that happened that night that they remembered, it goes into the report because it could change the life-saving measures that they went through or used or how they treated the patient. And something like "I hit him" is extremely significant that this man was in a car accident, but it's never mentioned once in the reports from that evening. We get into what John O'Keefe was wearing that evening. Last trial, this witness said that he was wearing a puffy winter coat and at least 2 layers of clothing. He was appropriately dressed for a winter evening. And we always were like, oh my God, well, where is this coat if he was wearing this coat? Well, it turns out that was not fact. He was never wearing a coat. He was always just wearing that thin shirt with a hoodie. So that's an inconsistency that he said last trial that he's now trying to correct this trial. Alan Jackson wants to know more about the injuries that he sustained. Originally, he said that there were no injuries to John O'Keefe's, I believe, left side of the body, but he had a black eye in both eyes. So wouldn't that have been an injury on that side of the body? So he's just trying to create a ton of confusion. And if you can't tell, I was definitely confused. There is some redirect from Hank Brennan and then more questioning from Alan Jackson. And it really comes down to now Timothy Nuttall, for the first time, is saying that he heard in the background Karen Reed saying, I hit him, a bunch more times to other EMTs and firefighters and police officers there, but this is the first time that he said that. So Alan Jackson is like, why didn't you just tell me that on cross-examination when I was questioning you about it? And he said, well, I wasn't specifically asked. And Bev is kind of over it. She's like, let's wrap this up. And I have to agree. This is the first witness. This trial is going to take months if we spend so much time on little details like this. I get that this is a very significant detail, but I think the point was made. But he didn't ever say in any of the grand jury testimony or the previous trial that he heard in the background her talking to another official person and saying, I hit him. The next witness that they call is Kerry Roberts, and she wasn't out with this group the evening of, so I'm not sure why Hank Brennan is calling her this early in the trial, but we'll obviously find out maybe soon. And we get into why she's being introduced. She's friends with John O'Keefe. She used to live in Braintree, now she lives in Canton, but she wasn't out with this group. And Karen Reed knows her really well because her and John O'Keefe are close friends. So the morning of January 29th, when Karen Reed wakes up and nobody's answering and she doesn't know where John is, she calls Kerry Roberts to be like, hey, I can't find John. The first thing she said was, Kerry, John's dead, and then she hung up. And then Karen Reed called Kerry Roberts back, and the second time she said, I think something happened to John. I think he got hit by a plow. He didn't come home last night. And that's kind of where we left it. She'll be back on the stand tomorrow with a ton of more questioning from Hank Brennan and then some cross-examination from the defense. But that's a wrap on day 1. I will watch everything all day tomorrow and be back here to give you guys my daily recap.